There are moments in your life when we're looking for the next new thing. But the question we always have to ask ourselves is, what is it that truly drives me? What is it that I really want in life? And I want you to understand that everything that you have is you already have inside you. You need to cultivate and let that shine. It's a privilege to have Dr. Travis Corcoran on the show today from the Netherlands in Eindhoven. Did I say it right?
Well said. Well said.
And I'm super happy to have you with us today. I was just, I picked up this incredible book. I don't know if you've heard about it, Restoring Reason. It's a smash hit record, just hitting records left and right. But man, this is profound. Travis is making wakes and tsunamis of waves today with standing purposely as I was sharing with a good friend, we were talking the other day about who you are, and you remind me, I said, of just a chiseled person, of chiseled granite, where you stand for purpose, you share, and you always go back to the basics of reason. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Chiropractor's Edge.
Thanks, Jake, man. It's a pleasure to be on here. I hope you're not, that chiseled thing is not, you're distracted by the beard, maybe. I don't know.
Well, hey, I'd love to have you on, and obviously, I'd love for people to get to know obviously who you are. You are a very humble man. You are a man who stands for principle. I know you don't like talking about yourself. I know you like talking about chiropractic. I know what you stand for. And that is what I would love to be able to talk and share with today is, how do you stand for what you truly believe? And all the platforms of success that you are now reaching. I mean, your book's going to be translated into multiple languages. You have leaders, high leaders, that are wanting to use your curriculum and in teaching their countries and their people and their circles of influence. How do we get here as chiropractors? How do we get to that point, and how can we stick to our principles without looking for more of what we don't want?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for the intro too, by the way, Jake. But in chiropractic, it's even simpler than you think, because we're so blessed that all the people before us, D.D. Palmer, B.J. Palmer, all these guys, Reggie Gold, like really, these guys were true scholars. They actually embodied what I wrote about in this book.
Yep.
Right. When I think back about it, like D.D. Palmer, he had immense knowledge. He had an incredible database of knowledge, very eclectic, like from all areas. Right. And it was really genius what he did. So that knowledge was available to a lot of people, but he's the one that put it all together. That is the second liberal art, right? The knowledge is available to all of us. I mean, on my phone, I can get knowledge like on anything. Of course, whether it's correct or incorrect is another question. But back then, there was plenty of knowledge around. Didi was absorbing it like crazy. The difference was, rather than just how do I say, conforming to authority, well, this is what healthcare is at this time. No, he asked questions. He utilized his sense of reason, logic, and wanted answers. He wanted understanding. I want to understand this. The most profound question he asked is like, why is this person sick? And that, they breathe the same air, eat the same food, work at the same job, blah, blah, blah. Those questions, like, and Sean Dill talks about too, we see it in terms of discernment. BJ talks about it, conflicts clarify. We need to question status quo. Just because it comes from the authority doesn't mean it's always correct. And so Didi, he really embodied that, and then his son, BJ, he embodied the third liberal art, rhetoric or wisdom, basically the expression of this knowledge, like knowledge and understanding. And BJ did that brilliantly, right? Every great marketer, unfortunately, many politicians as well, they are experts in rhetoric or wisdom, the expression of knowledge. And so to do this in chiropractic, how do we serve the profession, stay in the principles? Simple. Cultivate first your mind. And that was what I did. I want to make sure I can take care of myself first. I did that None of Your Business podcast with Sean and Lacey. And they brought up such a good question. It's a question I hear all the time. And especially nowadays with everything going on in politics and stuff. People get in these heated debates, and the question that's asked to me all the time, this is the most popular question I get. Travis, how do I, when someone's being unreasonable or they're like, how do I get them to see things my way, and with that always comes the assumption that you're correct. And so my answer is not always what they want to hear, but it's always, yeah, first, what systematic or what reliable method do you have to ensure that you're correct and your conclusions are true? Are you checking your premises? Once we've
Wow.
established that, because everyone's so interested in like first changing everyone else first instead of like looking at yourself in the mirror. And when I brought that up, Sean and Lacey brought up a great example from, they did some mastermind with Polish or something, a guy. I
Yeah,
don't
Joe
know.
Polish. Yep, I was there.
Yeah,
It was incredible.
and he asked the whole crowd, he's like, how many of you have ever been done dirty by someone, or, and everyone's hand goes up. He's like, okay, how many of you have done someone else dirty? Right. That, no, oh, not me. Everything I do is great. Right. And it's the same thing when it comes to these difficult discussions about chiropractic or even larger politics, that first make sure that you're standing firmly in your principles. And I was very lucky. My first chiropractic experience was with this young graduate. I think she was like a year and a half out of school. She wasn't that busy, unfortunately, because she was great. But man, was I lucky. She understood the principles and objectives of chiropractic. So me, this graduate with a philosophy degree, arrogant, young, I was a total dick, to be honest. And I wasn't interrogating her with the intention to understand chiropractic. It was really to like put her in her place and just for me to be right. I was very young. It's embarrassing to even admit this, but I was young, and that's just how I was at that time until I got, yeah, a lot of failures, a lot of things. That's how I wasn't always as humble as I am now. But that was a good experience. And she, to what you're saying, I'm so thankful because she could stand so firmly and respond, not react. She responded calmly. Why? Because she understood the principles, she understood the objectives, and they all conformed to reason. So every challenge I had, like she could answer. Like as a chiropractor, this is way back before I was a chiropractor. She's highly trained to detect vertebral subluxation. With the philosophy degree, I was highly trained to detect errors in reason, contradictions, things like this.
Yes.
And that was the turning point. I became a chiropractor after that, after 2 months of care with her, because throughout all my interrogation, everything she said conformed to reason. I couldn't what I'm highly trained to do. I couldn't find a single error, nothing. And I was like, my God, this thing is legit. And I went from trying to like win to trying to understand. And when I did, I was like, yeah, I'm going. And yeah, basically 2 months after that,
You were
I
there.
was I was at Palmer. I was seated at my first day of class, man.
One of the many things I admire about you is that a lot of docs, and there obviously is going to be skill sets that, things that we need to learn to be the best. And we have to learn to be a chiropractor. You have to learn the skill set. But
Yeah.
many believe that they have to do exactly what someone else does that doesn't bring them happiness or joy, doesn't speak to them. I
Yeah.
love that you took what and who you are and you have fueled that and inserted it perfectly into chiropractic. I love that. And talking to your point with what Sean and Lacey had talked about too, that really struck me was, like we judge other people by their actions and we judge ourselves by our intentions.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was done dirty by so and so.
Yeah.
Did you do someone dirty? Oh, of course not, because we judge ourselves by our intentions,
Yeah.
right? And it's critical, especially today. And as you were talking about the opportunity to learn and to be able to talk with reason, one of the biggest blessings we've had from COVID, and we had this lesson 100 years ago, we have this lesson multiple times, and lessons keep coming until we learn them, until
Yeah.
we understand them. One of the greatest lessons now is, and for the first time, even the last few weeks, we're seeing the world really say, okay, what's really happened here?
Yeah.
What is really happening? And we start to see reason, not emotion. We've had a lot of emotion. We're now seeing reason for the first time in 2 years. Now, some of us, we've only gotten more founded, but to really see that, What do you think has had to happen? What do you think has changed in the last few weeks, the last few months in the world where we're starting to see masses turn to reason now? What do you think clicked for the world? And then what's clicked for the chiropractor to help us develop and dive deeper into that?
Again, well, before I answer that question, I'll say whatever answer I give for chiropractic, it's the same for the world. That's why I've always loved chiropractic. Chiropractic is a microcosm of the macro, of the bigger picture, right?
Yes.
Every single problem I see politically and like with the associations and the bureaucracy and the manipulation and the loss of principles and the appeal to emotion, social conformity, every issue that you see within this profession exists in the broader picture. And for me, that's why I really love chiropractic on another level, besides being the most eloquent form of healthcare, is that the world is a complex, sophisticated, socioeconomic nightmare sometimes, and it's hard to wrap your head around. And you can get very bogged down, frustrated, disappointed, and want to just be apathetic about the whole thing. So if you really want to understand it, understand something like a holographic image of something smaller, and chiropractic for me is that. Everything that's true in this profession is true on a broader spectrum as well. So my answer is going to be the same for both. And that is something I repeat all the time. What changed in the last couple of months, years, weeks? Conflict. Conflict always clarifies. Conflict clarifies. If we don't have healthy conflict, there's no opportunity to find, and here's where it gets tricky, the winner. Wow. People are, and when I say winner, I mean the winning idea, the winning concept, the winning principle.
Wow.
Like people, they fight each other as individuals, which is really unproductive. So I had this is the first time I'm sharing this, so we'll see how it goes. I had this thought, man, and it's like a friend of mine, he showed me this show. I don't know what, but it was like these robots and they were like fighting each other. Some had like hacksaws and buzzsaws and electric tasers and so you had a team, conveniently red and blue, of like engineers dressed that built a machine, and the machines would go into a ring and fight, and then you see what's the winning design. It's unfortunate that we don't do this with ideas and concepts. Like they're separate from ourselves, right? And we put these ideas in the ring and see which one wins. So like you and I, if we have if we had conflicting ideas or ideologies, we put them in the ring. Which one stands up to reason? Which one has valid premises and a conclusion? Which one, And then at the end, here's another thing I observed about society, is when the robot would win, one team celebrates and the other one sulks. And I was like, what? They should both be celebrating. Both teams are now wiser. They're both wiser. Because of that conflict, they know which model, which design is superior to the other, right? So if we did that with ideologies, we put them in the ring. So it's not my ideology. Here's this ideology and there's that ideology, but we always use possessive pronouns, right?
Right.
Like my belief, my idea, he thinks, his beliefs, his perception. Why don't we say that's an idea, there's a perception, how about this person? Why not use definite and indefinite articles before those? And so I thought if we put the ideologies in the ring, and then you have these two seemingly opposing teams, the teams aren't opposed. We're all humans, right? It's the ideologies that are opposed. And to stop being so individually attached to those, because the moment you do, you lose your individuality. You become part of a collective that has accepted that ideology. And if it's not in conflict regularly to see which one is superior, then what happens is you could potentially be attached to a shitty idea or ideology. And it's all because you did it based on emotion. Someone appealed to your sense of fear or anger, usually, or you can do that with compliments as well. Like, oh, Jake, man, your jacket and that beard. Oh, you're like more prone to listen to me if I compliment you. I'm playing to your emotions.
Right.
But it's the same thing with anger and fear. The politicians do it quite well. So I would say the answer, long-winded answer to your question is conflict, healthy conflict that we're detached from, because it's not individuals fighting. We all want the best for each other. No, I don't know anyone that's like, oh, war is awesome, murder is good, theft and rape. No one is saying that, right? It's crazy. And we're all humans. Why do we fight so much when it's really the ideologies that are opposed to one another, not us?
Wow. And that's exactly where I knew we could go today. I couldn't formulate that in my mind. But man, what a powerful concept that in every aspect of your life, in your marriage, as a husband or as a father, as a mother, as a wife, as a business owner, as a chiropractor, that thought process is what will change the world. I mean, conflict is inevitable,
Mhm.
but combat is optional. I mean, why do you have to fight and be bloody when
Yeah.
instead of saying, hey, I welcome conflict. I mean, look at BJ, look at Dee Dee, look at the greats, look at you.
Yeah.
And why can't we make conflict a point of our life where it's going to bring, we think this is going to bring clarity. And what it tells me about you is that you are seeking to understand. You are seeking to better yourself. And you cannot make someone better by putting them down. You
No.
cannot make someone, you absolutely just can't do that. What an incredible concept that if we lived that concept, imagine how we could transform our businesses. Imagine how we can transform our world. Because instead of
Yeah.
having to constantly look for one-upping somebody, it's seeking to understand. What a healthy, powerful way to think.
Yeah, that is, I can't tell you how much I love hearing you say that, because that is exactly like when people ask me something, usually the solution to nearly every problem, the solution to a relationship problem, a business problem, whatever, a political problem, financial, understanding, which is nearly synonymous with reason, logic, reason, understanding.
Wow.
Those are different ways of saying the second liberal arts. At the heart of everything, you want to solve something, you have a problem. Well, there's no hope of fixing it until you have an understanding. Like
Wow.
if there was something wrong with my Volvo, I take it to someone that understands Volvos. I don't take it to my the guy that cuts my hair, right? But that problem will not be fixed. It needs to go to someone that has an understanding if I want a solution. And it's the same with your relationships, and that, like, understand your partner, understand what's really bothering you, just get understanding. And you hit it right on the head, understanding.
You brought up something that's actually incredibly important as well. That I see is a lot of times, like I said, your Volvo breaks down, so we take it into your hairstylist. Most people, when they're asking other people to help them solve a problem, they're seeking validation. They're seeking it from people who are unqualified,
Yeah.
and everyone's going to have an opinion. And you will see, when you are seeking for something that you want validation from, you're going to ask it from everyone. And when you hear it enough from the wrong people, you're going to think it's a great idea, as opposed to taking it to the person who truly has an opinion. And a lot of us, again, we seek cheerleaders in our life, people who can support us, which I believe everyone who doesn't want to be seen and heard. Who
Sure,
doesn't want
sure.
to be validated? But man, we need challengers. We need people who can give healthy conflict and say,
Yeah.
well, hey, Jake, that sounds like a great idea, but have you thought of it from this perspective? Have you thought of
Yeah.
it from this perspective? You told me you want this in your life, but this gets you actually farther away from my perspective. Can you see that? And
Yeah.
unless I have the humility or the understanding to want to be better, we're going to seek validation from the wrong people. And we see this in chiropractic all the time.
Yeah.
We get these shiny pennies. So, how do
Oh,
you,
yeah,
how
dude.
did you get, how did, so with the craziness that's happened right now, and would you please share with us, and again, how humble is this guy, you guys, Travis? Will you please share us with what is going on with some of your endeavors in the Netherlands right now? Because I'd like to talk about that and then come up with and talk about a few other subjects. But tell us about what your role is right now. Why are you in the Netherlands? Why are you there?
Oh man, that's well, that's a bit long story, but
Hey, that's fine. That's what we
right
want
out
to
of,
hear.
I'll try the nutshell version. Right out of chiropractic school, I thought, man, I was very spizzed up on chiropractic. I still am, but at that time, I thought, man, I can work as a chiropractor. We can work anywhere, so I'm gonna take advantage of that. And I took this position in Malaysia, complete opposite side of the world from where I live, third world country, Asian culture. I thought, man, this is for me, this is exactly what I need to broaden my perspective as well. And it turned out to be a crazy experience. The lady was end up being a criminal. I was kind of shanghaied because she had my passport and kept it from me for like 4 6 weeks. I end up though, once that was all resolved, and yeah, she had a couple court cases after that. I
Wow.
stayed there for a year and kind of worked under the radar, and that was my first year in practice, living in
Wow.
a living in a. I'm not joking. I'll send you a picture on Facebook Messenger if you don't believe me. I lived in a wooden shack with no bathroom in the middle of a beautiful fruit farm in the middle of a valley. Stray dogs that slept outside the house, and I just had a sarong and this little shitty Citroen. I call it a Citroen, and that one of the patients lent me. And I was pretty much prepared to stay there like my whole life because I was living in paradise, even though I didn't
Wow.
have like all this nice stuff. I was incredibly happy. I'm eating like fruit right from the dude. I mean, like there's bananas, coconuts, papaya everywhere, just like falling all over the place. And then, but you know, this lady, once all of her, after a year, she settled all her lawsuits, and then knew that I was still working there. So the Ministry of Health was like trying to catch me working, you know. So the stress got to be too much, and I had to leave that paradise. So I took there was a position in Netherlands, like for a couple chiropractors, uh, and I was selected. I said, "Oh, great!" I came, and I'll say again, the money will not make you happy, man. I came here. I was in Malaysia, and I wanted to stay there forever, and I had no money, nothing. Um, I came to Netherlands, and I was getting paid very well, but after a year and 8 months, I was like, I cannot live like this. It's not principled where I work.
No.
It's all pain based. I don't mind clients coming in with pain, but there's no education for the clients. Everyone I worked with was miserable. Everyone complained every day, yet refused to move on and get a new job. That's like they did not take responsibility for their mental health. I said, this is it. I'm done. So I opened my own, and yeah, now we have 9 offices in the Netherlands. We'll have 10 or 11 before the year's end. And just last year, October, uh, opened the European Chiropractic Academy, Netherlands. And so it's a 5 year chiropractic degree, 4 years bachelor's of science, and then the last year you have to write your thesis for your master's of science chiropractic. That's how chiropractic in Europe, the chiropractic education is different. There's no doctorate of chiropractic here. It's all masters. So we opened that, and our first class started last year October. They're doing great,
I love it.
and I'm glad I get to teach them quite a bit. So like I wasn't excited I was first like only going to be president, and that's still the case. But we were having some difficulty. Like some of the instructors, their English is so bad, and we want the whole curriculum in English. The main reason is because we noticed in France and Germany, the English isn't that good, and so those chiropractors aren't privileged or fortunate enough to read so much of the green books and
Wow.
or the blue book. I love Strauss. I'm a big Strauss fan.
Yes.
Uh, they don't get their exposure to Reggie Gold, and even if you're one of those research geeks, like the lion's share of chiropractic research is also in English. So what we want to do, we're not going to do the curriculum in Dutch, um, which my Dutch is good, but I can't imagine teaching like 8 hours a day in Dutch. So the whole curriculum was designed to be in English so that the community of principled chiropractors can grow within Europe, and
Wow.
they're doing great, man. But so we did have some problems finding some instructors. So I ended up teaching some like basic anatomy courses. I was like, oh man, it's all coming back, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And however, they ultimately turn into philosophy courses. Like it's like I'm supposed to be teaching anatomy, and we get through it, and they've passed the courses, but I can't help but infuse a little bit of chiropractic ideology and the philosophy in there.
I love that you live what you believe. I love that you live what drives you. I mean, and I mean, you just shared conflict to 100 different ways, but how you didn't make that as a setback. You used it to set you up to bring you closer to what you want and to bring Principle Chiropractic to the world. Because how significantly easier would it have been to find locals? How
Yeah.
significantly easier would it be? But for you to say, well, this is the message. And I
Yep.
love when you find a master. Look at it. Look at the masters of chiropractic. Look at Reggie Gold. You look at Fred Barge. You look at these absolutely incredible greats, and you look at a concert pianist who can just play, just tickle the ivory so beautifully and seems so effortless. Why? Because I've done it 100,000 times, and they make what seems difficult easy. And I
Yeah.
love that about you. I admire that about you, that you're able to take truth and insert it everywhere, because truth is truth. And you can always find principles of truth in everything you do. And when you're not founded on truth, that's when people say, I'm burned out.
Yeah.
That's when people get distracted by, how did I get here? Because it wasn't founded on truth.
Yeah.
They chase those shiny pennies. They chase things because they said chiropractic wasn't enough. And that's when disaster
Yeah.
happens.
100, man, dude, you've hit that nail on the head, right? That, and back to understanding. Just imagine for a moment that everyone that calls themselves a chiropractor actually understood chiropractic. Imagine what kind of world that would be. Like,
Problem solved.
yeah, there'd be no need to like chase all the shiny things. And I can't even list them all now, like dry needling, cold heat, hot packs, ionic foot baths, tasers, and I don't know what they electrocute people with nowadays. And like, all this is happening because you simply don't understand the principles of this beautiful, and the David Cope. Do I have his book here? Yeah. And even simpler, right?
Yes.
They're not all chiropractic principles. There's like 3 chiropractic principles. There are 14 universal principles, 16 biological principles that no scientist in their right mind can disagree with. There are only 3 chiropractic principles. So if chiropractors just got those first 30, it's a foregone conclusion, the other 3. And yet,
Wow.
dude, it's, oh man, I try to be a man of reason, but sometimes when it gets to chiropractic and I see something so beautiful under such great threat, it does get me a bit passionate. And what you talked about with understanding, bro, that is the key to freaking everything. And it harkens back to Dee Dee Palmer. We just had a philosophy call every month with my team. We do a monthly philosophy call and quarterly technique. Now, that's significant, right? We do philosophy more frequently than technique.
Wow.
And this is something I wanted to we talked about on, no, this is 2 philosophy calls ago. Dee Dee, we mentioned a little bit last night. Dee Dee Palmer got pretty good results, man. Like, I remember hearing Sean talk at like the first Axiom, and I never thought of it this way. It blew my mind. Dee Dee Palmer, his first client ever, right? Who's deaf. And he asked everyone raise their hand if you ever had a deaf client. And I was like, yeah, I've had like 5 or 6, And a couple hands went up. And he's like, how many of them ever got their hearing restored? And like one, for me, one. I was like, my hand stayed up. And a lot of hands go, there's a few people, And I'm thinking like, I mean, that's like less than 20%, right? 20 or less percent. Dee Dee Palmer gets it on his first, like 1 out of 1. That's like stepping up to a golf course. You never touched a golf club and you get a hole in one right away, right? And so
Yes.
that's we got talking about that. So I was like, okay, how did this man who never attended a single chiropractic technique seminar, which there are God knows how many technique seminars now, and in Europe they're crazy. Everyone's doing these, right? I was like, all these chiropractors spend so much time, money, and energy focused on that. And I'm thinking, Dee Dee Palmer, that had to be one of the worst corrections ever. Like he's never running around doing tricep twitches, hitting speeder boards, right? But how did he get such good results? Understanding.
Wow.
He understood exactly what he wanted to do. He had an incredible knowledge of anatomy and physiology in the nervous system. He had an incredible intent. This is what I expect to happen. This is what I'm going to do. I understand it completely. Like Nikola Tesla said, I never invented anything that it didn't come out of my mind until it was complete. And that's what D.D. Palmer did really with that first correction. He's like, this is my intention. This is what I'm going to do. And it was all based on understanding. And the second thing was like so that's the second liberal art. And then the third liberal art is communication. And I heard Dan Bay talk about this. He's like, how the hell, like this guy comes in and your communication, you have to convince someone that I'm going to like slam on your neck to make you like to improve your outcomes or restore neurological integrity.
Yeah.
Like you have to be a good communicator. So really all these chiropractors spend all their time, money, and energy on technique stuff. I think, what are you doing? Like, why are you not really focused on understanding chiropractic and your ability to communicate it? How do you not want to? Because that's what D.D. Palmer did. And I don't, and the majority of chiropractors I know here, they don't get those kind of results. Right?
Yep.
Did they get those kind of results with their first client ever? No. And they think that they will by keep going to, now, nothing against technique seminars, right? I made this, this small caveat, like D.D. Palmer wasn't seeing 100 a week or more, right? So a technique seminar is probably a good idea to learn how to biomechanically advantage yourself for like volume and to serve as many people as possible. But the notion that you're going there thinking this is what's going to get you results, that's crazy. You need to understand it and communicate it properly first. And so I'm not opposed to I'm not opposed to technique seminars. What I'm opposed to is like prioritizing those in front of understanding and your ability to communicate what you do.
You know, you and I are privileged to know multiple people who have actually invented and started techniques, right? And one of our good friends, Donnie Epson, he says, he created an avenue that allows him to detect and analyze and correct vertebral subluxation. And he even says, don't be married to your technique. It always goes back to the core philosophy, right?
Yes.
Those are appendages that can help you find and correct vertebral subluxation, but it's always going to come to what do you really know? Your philosophy. I mean, if you look at doctors of osteopathy, right? Look at their profession. Look where their trajectory was going.
Yeah.
And then when they sold their philosophy, look where they are now.
Yeah.
And its philosophy is absolutely everything. And the understanding of being able to understand those core truths and those core roots and fundamentals of life is what changes. If you look at, I would challenge you, the chiropractor, I would challenge you to look at your practice. When people come in, every once in a while, we get someone who says, hey, I've heard you're the best. I heard it from so-and-so, 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 so-and-so. And every once in a blue moon, they say, hey, do you do torque release? Or, oh, do you do that, Gonstead? Do you know how rare that is, though, in our practice? Do you know how many people come and say, oh my gosh, I felt understood, I felt seen, and every conversation that happens at my front desk is, I had no idea how incredible my body is. I had no idea where true health comes from. I had no, and because what do we do in our exams? We talk philosophy. We talk about how the body really works, but we seek to understand the person in front of us. And how can I take those common grounds of truth, those ideologies that we both have, and how can we found them in truth? And then I do my exam and I find what's going on. But we have that understanding first, and that is what makes people stay. That is what makes people refer, and that's what makes people pay.
Yeah. That's a funny, that was one of the things that also came up in our philosophy call last night. One of our newer chiropractors, Oshin, a great guy from Ireland, man. And this is in his first year of practice. And we were discussing some problems and like what to do with clients. And he came up right away, like, ask questions to understand where the client's coming from. And from first year chiropractor, like his brother's pretty, I'd say well-known chiropractor here in Europe as well. And it was so great to hear that first year chiropractor going, yeah, that's the solution. Understanding. Like the client wants to quit or they're not happy, unsatisfied with care. Okay. Let's reintroduce ourselves, start over, ask some questions and develop an understanding. Of course, I want them to understand the principles of chiropractic and what our objectives are, but it's a lot easier to do when you understand them first. And
Yes.
but again, it's understanding on both sides, really.
And that's what I love about you is you learn from the absolute best. You have your mentors, your coaches, you help so many. But that principle you just taught, that the quality of our questions determines the quality of our answers, and it's not being manipulative, and it's being
Oh,
it's understanding who's this person in front of me, what life experiences do they have, what can I learn as as the teacher, as doctor. It's our endeavor, it's our moral obligation, ethical obligation to educate, to teach. But how
yeah.
many times do we learn? What I have found personally, chiropractic reveals its secrets to me when I truly understand people. When I understand a part of their life and I'm able to see how those core fundamentals of truth changes their life, it only changes the way I think about going back to the fundamentals. Anytime I feel I'm straying and I'm finding myself unhappy or burned out, I have found, okay, where did I go off? Okay, it's a core truth. It's a core root of philosophy, of understanding. And I haven't been reasonable. I haven't been thinking reasonably. I've been thinking emotionally. And it goes back to that principle. We judge other people by their actions and by our intentions. So your intentions become muddied, they become unfounded, and then that's when you can get yourself dangerously off course to unhappiness, depression, and even like you were sharing with your first doc into legal battles. When you're founded on truth, you'll never find yourself in those hot waters.
Right. It doesn't mean I like people to understand this too. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of like cultivating, nurturing your mind, and the more certain people love certainty. Man, it's where you can get it, right? It's never guaranteed, but certainty, like we desire it so much that we'll invent it, right?
Yes.
That's the whole basis of a conviction bias. Like I believe in it so much that it's true, right? We want
Wow.
certainty. We want certainty because certainty provides safety. And even when it's unavailable, we create it with our belief systems, right? I am certain of this. And you're so right, Jake, man. Try to, this is, oh man, the better you understand something, the more certainty you have in it, the more certainty I have in this profession. My certainty in this profession is based on my understanding of it. And the schools, unfortunately, many of them are not doing, they're not doing right by their students.
No.
They provide more legal, bureaucratic obligations, like the red flags and this and that, and it's unfortunate. I wish things would get better, but I'm done with wishing. I just start my own school, so I'll make it my way.
So that is something that again I've been so blessed to be able to talk to incredible people like you. I'm so honored to know you. We serve together on the IFCO. We're gonna have a link down below, you guys. If you are not a member of the IFCO, become a member of the IFCO and support those who are fighting
Please,
to
please,
change the world through principled chiropractic care. But it's a the IFCO has so much understanding of what is really happening, and it goes
yeah,
back to those core fundamentals. Where do we go? We will follow. You can read, every disaster that's ever happened, it was because someone didn't follow history. Everything
yeah,
has happened to someone else before. Everything else happened to a profession before, a
yeah,
civilization before. But when we fail to follow the lessons, when we seek to understand, then to be understood, that is where the world will change. And I love what you are doing in your life. I love what you're doing for the world, for Europe, for standing on principles, for standing on and utilizing your truths, utilizing the things that you were passionate about with your mind, and be able to say, you know what, I can take this, and it perfectly inserts here. It
yeah,
perfectly inserts here because it is founded on truth. That
yes,
to you, the chiropractor, is what I would share. There are things that make you unique about yourself. When you found yourself in truth, when you seek to understand, that is where the biggest impact and that is where passion comes. And when you see someone that clicks like that, their velocity and their
yeah,
firmness is unstoppable.
yeah. If you're, I will say this. I know a lot of people that have been successful or they've achieved a lot based on emotion. However,
Okay.
it is not sustainable or predictable, and if you fail, you cannot repeat that. Those are those circumstances of luck. And one of the I think Sean and Lacey recommended this book, but it's been recommended by many others too, called Predictable Success. And
Yes.
that comes based on understanding, right? I know a lot of people have gotten where they are based on emotion and passion, and well, politicians are a great example, but that's not sustainable. I think of it as like like holding a basketball underwater. Like if you let off even for a second,
Wow.
it will return to its natural state. It's going to float on top. So when your success is based on appeal to emotion, if you want to sustain that success, you're going to have to constantly invest more and more and more emotion, and it will lead to burnout, depression,
Wow.
frustration, and ultimately failure. And the amount of people, including yourself, that you hurt in the wake of all this is all could have been avoided if people simply understood. And this is tricky. If they understood the trivium, or those first three liberal arts, like how your mind works, where it finds security. It's as chiropractors, we're so blessed to have this amazing understanding of physical anatomy and physiology, the anatomy and the structure and function of physical things. Okay, so within those principles can be applied to your psychology, not just the physiology. And it's difficult because the things in our mind are not, because they're not physical, we can't weigh them, like how long and big are they, what color, right? They're non-physical phenomena, but they're very real, like memory, ego, subconscious, consciousness. All these things are very real. Emotions, thoughts, ideas, they're real things. And it's good. So your mind, this non-physical thing, it also has structures, and those different things have functions. Just like my heart has a structure and a function, my lungs have a structure and a function. Well, so does my memory, so does my ego, so do my emotions.
Wow.
There's components to our mind that we don't bother understanding, and we conflate these things like that. This is one of the biggest things, is that so many people have confused their thought with emotion, right? Back to that conviction bias.
Yes.
Well, that is my thinking. Are you sure it's your thinking, or is it just your automatic emotional reaction? There's a difference between thoughtful response and emotional reaction. And because it's not a physical thing that we can see and put in front of us, we confuse the two. We think that emotions are the same as actual intellectual rigor and having put some thought into it, like active thought, not reactive emotions. And we should study this more. It would provide us with so much more clarity. And it doesn't mean your life's going to be completely happy and like pain-free, but it will give you that one thing that we all desire: certainty, genuine certainty, not the emotional pseudo certainty that we all invent for ourselves sometimes.
People buy certainty. People want they want certainty. Kids
Yeah.
want certainty. Kids, that's exactly what everyone craves.
Yeah.
And you nailed that. Absolutely true. Is there's gonna be moments in life where you're excited about something, but when that emotion dies, what's left? What are you left holding? Are you
Right.
holding smoke? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, this wasn't real. We have to be able to have mentors and people in front of us, and we have to be founded on truth so we can recognize, was I running on pure emotion? Was I running on adrenaline? I mean, if you drink your coffee in the morning, or an energy drink or something like that, it's eventually going to run out. And you have to be able to say, where am I founded? And am I really holding smoke or sand? Or no, wow, look what I'm building, look what I'm growing, and watch that take off. That is a difference between good and great. That is a difference between ordinary and extraordinary. That is what we need chiropractors to have. You and I have the belief, and we have the ideology. We have the understanding that what we have is the greatest thing in this world, and it can give us absolutely everything that we've ever wanted, and all of what we want, if it's founded on truth. And that is where I would counsel these docs. You guys follow Travis. Travis, how can I know you again? You are a humble, very strong leader. You're a train, and people got to jump on this train. um, to understand. So you guys, for those of you, we're gonna have the link, and this is gonna be on our website on the chiropractorsedge.com. Actually, it's already on there. We've got your book on there. You can get it off of Amazon, but you guys follow Travis and to see what he is doing, to see how you can utilize your strengths that you already have. And if you do not, if you feel you have an unsure foundation when it comes to your philosophy, understanding how to reason, how to articulate your thoughts, I counsel you, follow Travis, follow what he's doing. You don't have to be Travis, but you can emulate his trajectory, which is founded on truth and understanding. So how do we for those who would like to be able to understand you better, obviously read the book.
Yeah.
And for those that want to help, support you in the school, how do we follow you? How do we get more involved with you, Travis?
You can always hit me up on Facebook, so long as I'm allowed to have that account. But that's I have a very touch and go relationship with Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Relationship complicated, but probably the easiest is go to restoringreason.com, and there's the best, because you can sign up for a mailing list. Things are getting so. And oh, by the way, you can also download the first chapter for free, no strings attached. But if you sign up for a mailing list, I'm only putting that together just because it's gotten so. Things are getting to a point where I think we need to have, we were talking before this call, the world's gone crazy, right? So we need more of these discussions. And I've been doing so many private ones and like the coaching stuff. That's always one-on-one. I'm really thinking that we need to start a group where even if you don't want to contribute, that you're listening in on that conversation. And so what I was thinking, and this may happen, so if you want to follow when it launches, or if it happens, we'll be doing discussions, at least monthly Zoom discussions, centered around the Trivium and checking ourselves, right? Like, bring something to the table. Hopefully there's healthy conflict, like we talked about. We'll throw some ideologies in there and let's have it out, right? Healthy, safe place, and see what the prevailing or superior ideology is, and be open to amending those if we have to. We need more healthy conflict and discourse, and it's becoming incredibly difficult on Facebook. Now it's an admission of failure when someone has to censor you. Like, they don't have a reasonable rebuttal, so they just have to cut out your tongue, right?
Wow.
They're not afraid
Yep.
of what you're saying. They're afraid that other people will hear what you're saying and that they'll also make sense of it.
Yeah. Turn the mic off, right?
So I'm trying to think, cut his mic. So think about starting a group for something like that, so we can have these regular healthy discussions about challenging topics, not just chiropractic, but healthcare in general, politics in general.
I would love to use, you can utilize us as part of that platform, because like you said, that perfect visualization of the robots. Why are you happy? Okay, happiness equals an outcome of winning, as opposed to look at how much we learned.
Yeah.
Look at what we learned. That is the difference between ordinary and extraordinary.
Yeah. And the thing is, really, everyone wins, right? But it's funny that we chase the trophy, but the true trophy, the true value was what you learned. That was the superior design of the robots. And if we had it with ideology, that's the superior ideology. And rather than thanking people, it's crazy, Jake. If you told me right now that I have a virus on my computer or in my phone, well, that means something's interfering with how it processes, and it's not functioning at its best. If you pointed that out to me, I would thank you immensely. However, when we do this to each other's ideologies and perceptions, hey, Jake, what you were saying about this and your ideas about this political thing, there's some contradictions there. We're not thankful. When someone points out the virus in your personal processing, rather than thanking that person, you defend the thought virus.
Yes.
Because you're attached to it. You think it's you and that you're under attack, when really the contradiction, the error in reason, the logical inconsistency that's been illustrated, that's the problem. And someone is serving you and helping you. And instead of being thankful, you enter into debate and look to win, much like I did when I was first met that chiropractor. But, if I can learn my lesson, I think anyone can, because I was pretty hard. Yeah, I was a immovable force back then too, but with a little more arrogance. And so if I can change, I know anyone can.
And that principle you taught, look, you guys, I want you to think right now. Think of the person you admire most. Think of your hero. Think of your hero in chiropractic. Think of your hero in your own personal life. And you hear, the hero's journey wasn't the moment they slayed the beast. It's all the sweat and turmoil and stress and
Yeah,
having your legs taken out from under you. It's those lessons that made them great.
yeah,
It was the sweat and the blood and the tears and someone coming in saying, you have a virus, and then being able to say, you're right, I have that. That moment of acceptance is illuminating.
yeah,
And we shroud ourselves with darkness when we do not allow ourselves to walk away from our mistakes. I mean, just because it took us a long time to make those mistakes, why cling to it? It's like holding barbed wire. Why would you still cling on to this just because you took forever to make that happen?
yeah,
To be able to see what makes people great, to see it's the lessons learned, it's the trials, which then ultimately leads to illuminating success. And that success can come in riches. The success can come from fulfillment, but you're absolutely right. Fulfillment, happiness, and joy. This is what understanding, this is what restoring reason is really all about. And if we could restore reason and unify our thoughts and have healthy conflict in the chiropractic profession, that is exactly what will change this world. And that is exactly what will propel us towards greatness.
yeah. Let's restore reason to this profession.
Wow. Travis, thank you so much for being on with us today. And again, you can,
Pleasure.
I would say let's absolutely plan on doing a session here in the Chiropractor's Edge. Let's open it up. And then we will obviously use the platform that you decide to voice this on, and you have our support. Thank you for being on with us today. Thank you for illuminating my mind and teaching us that conflict is healthy, that we need conflict in order to grow, and that understanding is the key to every success in life. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you, Jake.